Hey everyone, how's it going? I hope you're all doing great and following the 3H's of the channel. In this video, I have 5 pretty crazy tales for you, and I hope you'll enjoy them. I have some stuff from Appalachia, some stuff from Tuscany, some stuff about the Hatman, and beyond. So, if that sounds like something you're interested in, definitely pull up a stump with me, and let's get into it. Thank you for watching. So I was told this from my mother's perspective. In 1989, my parents were living together in an apartment. This was quite a few years before I was born. At night, my father always slept on the wall side of the bed because my mother liked to use the lamp to read until she fell asleep. Several times a month, she was woken up by my father's anxious movements during the night. He would pull her face tightly to his chest and cover her with his arms. He would look wide awake when she looked to his face, but he was silent and did not respond to her. Every morning, following a night like this, she would find him already awake before her. She would see that he would always swap places with her on the bed while she slept and wait for her to wake up before leaving the bed. Or, if he was out of the bed, he would be sitting somewhere near the front door, sipping coffee with his revolver tucked in his waistband. He said things were okay, so she assumed it was about night terrors or sleepwalking without questioning too much. Eventually, the time came for my father to leave to go to the army. My mother starts hearing the floorboards of the hallways outside of the bedroom creaking while she's up late one night reading. If she would check the front door, it would always still be double locked and chained. Later on a phone call with my father, she would bring up these noises. My father would tell her that he's not surprised, and he explains what he heard and saw those nights, and that he was hoping that he was just, quote, losing it, or having night terrors. He was a light sleeper, and he explained that after the creaking woke him up at night, he would look up to the bedroom doorway. At this time, in this place, it had no door, and there was about a 1 in 5 chance that he would see a very tall silhouette wearing what looked like a long overcoat and a Homburg hat, standing in the hallway facing him. The dark figure would stay for some time and then silently shuffle or sidestep into the hallway. My father said that he never really slept those nights that he saw or heard anything, and he was in the process of installing a bedroom door before he had to leave. My mother never stayed up late again after that, especially in that apartment. So this is a story that I heard from my granduncle. The man has seen some weird stuff over the years, some of which I have also seen. This is one of the more subtle ones, but it still gives me the chills. So, my granduncle was vacationing in Tuscany. I think the place that he was staying at may have been an Airbnb, but I don't quite remember. Anyways, it was a really cozy cottage-style place. It had a beautiful view. It was a comfortable place, but it was missing one bed. He decided that he would take one for the team and sleep on the couch. That night, he was lying on the couch, ready to go to sleep, and then he heard something coming past the doorway leading to the kitchen. He assumed that it was one of my aunts or something, but still, something felt off. So he peeks over the top of the couch and squints at the doorway. He watches as this figure walks past the doorway. It's an old man, pale as all hell. He has this permanent Cheshire cat grin plastered on his face. He's sort of losing his shit at this point. He kinda hunkers down and starts praying because that's all he knows how to do. Nothing further happens, and he eventually falls asleep. My granduncle never brings this up for the rest of the stay at this Airbnb. Eventually, they're all about to leave. He asks the owner about this elderly man. The owner was an elderly lady. He figured that she might know something. She says it was probably her husband checking in on them. She followed that up, saying that her husband has been dead for over 10 years. So this happened back when I was 16 in 2006. My mom was homeschooling me and my sister. She would also babysit my cousin's daughter. During our lunch break, we were sitting in the living room just watching TV. My cousin goes down the hallway toward the laundry room. Me and my sister hear her talking to someone. Our grandparents lived next door, so we thought that maybe Grandma needed something and came over. My mom goes to check on her and see. Me and my sister go too. My cousin is by herself, even though we heard 100% an older woman's voice. Mom asks her who she was talking to. She says, "A lady named Sue." There's nobody in our family named Sue. Mom just simply says, "Okay, where did Sue go?" The girl points at the floor and says she's hiding. Everyone is very weirded out by this point, and we're all kind of getting the heebie-jeebies. Mom decides to have us get our shoes and jackets on and go over to Grandma's house for a while. My cousin's daughter is standing with her back to the hallway, waiting for us to finish putting on our shoes. All of a sudden, the little girl drops to the floor like her legs got kicked out from under her, and then she starts being dragged by her hair down the hallway, kicking, flailing, and screaming. Mom runs after her, shouting, "Get the hell away from her." Mom grabs her, and we just book it the hell out of the house. That house was rebuilt around 2003, and for about 10 years, that hallway always gave off this very unsettling, claustrophobic vibe. We hated going down that hallway at night. It also felt like someone was right beside us, maybe even right behind us. I've had a lot of other experiences in this house too, but that's the biggest one, and it seems to have calmed down quite a bit in the last 5 or 6 years. My adventure into the unknown began back in 1990. I remember it was very hot that year in Devon, and the heat wave lasted for weeks. I think it was in August. I'm not so sure of the exact date, but I do remember that there was a hosepipe ban in Devon and other parts of the country. I remember the grass being dry, just like straw. I will never forget it. I was standing in the back garden of my old house when I just happened to look up and see something black far off in the distance. Whatever it was, it had appeared to be descending from the sky, gliding through the air at a great speed. It was heading in my direction, and I was having real trouble identifying what it could be. It was too large to be a bird, and it looked like it was the size of a large man. I was very perplexed as it got closer. For a second, I thought it was a skydiver. This is where my life changed forever. The creature unfolded its large bat-like wings and began to flap them with tremendous force. I could hear a whooshing sound as the wings of this gargoyle-like creature made contact with the air. I was holding a glass of Coca-Cola in my right hand. With shock, I dropped it on the ground. I was so scared that I did not know what to do. I just stood there, gazing intently at the creature. Time almost seemed to slow down as the gargoyle flew right over me, casting a large black shadow on the ground around me. I got a really good look at the creature too. There was no visible head on its body, and on its chest there were 2 large, round, glowing red lights, which I thought were probably its eyes. I could see the veins of the wings of the creature. That is how low it had been flying over my head. Its body was black all over, and it looked like it was wearing some type of tightly fitted all-in-one clothing that had the appearance of spandex, which had seams that ran down both sides of the legs. What really caught my eyes were the boots that it had on, or that it was wearing. They were heavy-looking, well-made, and had extra thick treads on them. The boots had protruding downward-facing triangles that were running down the sides of each boot. This creature sure was very strange-looking. I had never seen anything like it before. The creature flew off, directly over Newton Abbot Town Center, off toward a wooded area, where I then lost sight of it. I was left standing, shocked, shaking, and paralyzed by fear. What the hell had I just witnessed? After this incident, I began encountering UFOs and other strange phenomena on a daily basis. I have witnessed things that should not exist. I have photographed many different types of UFOs all across Devon. I've even photographed USOs entering and leaving the sea off the English coast. In previous reports, I have wrongly stated that this Mothman incident took place in 1993, but I now know I was mistaken. I found some Polaroid photos that I remember taking days after the incident, and they have August 1990 written on the back of them. I now know that this incident did take place in August of 1990. I only wish I knew the date. So I went to law school out in the middle of nowhere, Virginia, right where the Virginia, West Virginia, Tennessee, Kentucky borders all junction. I was in my mid-20s at the time, and a pretty hard-headed skeptic, if I can say that. I'd had friends who were stationed in Minot, North Dakota, who told me stories about all the weird stuff they experienced there, and I would usually just laugh at them. Ironically, the place where I went to hone my reasoning skills would be the place where I became a believer in the paranormal. My first experience occurred shortly after I moved into my new apartment. I lived on the first floor of a 2-story complex, and behind the building was a ditch and a tall, steep mountain slope. A couple of former Marines that I went to school with decided to hike up it one day. They told me that at the top there was a wooded area, and it's a really nice little clearing. In the fall, you could hear bucks fighting and turkeys gobbling. I awoke one night at 3 a.m., and I noticed a light shining back and forth around my bedroom window, which looked out onto the ditch and that mountain. I got immediately pissed. I thought that it was some meth head burglar, and I peeked through the blinds to see if I could get the drop on him. I look around, and I see nothing, until I look up, and I see this big ball of blue floating light high above the ground. It was maybe 1.5 or 2 times the diameter of a basketball. I grew up in a decent-sized city, so a lot of what I'd seen in Appalachia was new to me. The bugs were huge, the quiet was deafening, and the weather was way different. I thought to myself, they have ball lightning here. The next day after class, I looked up ball lightning and found out that that wasn't how ball lightning works at all. From that night forward, I awoke almost every night right at 3 a.m. with my heart racing and short of breath. Feel free to call me a dumbass, but I never connected it with that incident. After all, I was a skeptic, and law school is very stressful. I really chalked it all up to anxiety until the following year, when things seemed to peak. The next year I was at a friend's apartment, and we were having a beer out on his balcony. He was a really thoughtful guy who'd spent his whole life in West Virginia. As we were talking, I heard the most god-awful sound in the woods, way off in the distance. It was a loud shriek, and it sounded human, but not human. Being from Appalachia, I thought that he would know what the hell kind of creature made such a damn blood-curdling sound. I asked him what it was, and he just shrugged his shoulders. I asked him how the hell he could hear something like that, have no idea what made that sound, and have no curiosity about what it was, and not be the slightest bit freaked out. He just said, "The woods out here are full of stuff. It could have been a bird, some kind of animal, maybe just a person acting like a jackass. That and there's all sorts of weird things that happen around here. We don't question it. We just accept it when it happens, and just live with it." He went on to tell me about his first paranormal experience, and I should ask him to recount it again for me, because it was much more kick-ass than any of the stuff that I've ever experienced, and how freaked out he was, and how his grandmother pretty much told him all sorts of weird stuff was out there, and how he'd better just get used to it. It was easier that way. He said the older hillbillies had seen so much that they just learned to coexist with it. We heard disembodied footsteps coming up the stairs. I went to investigate and found nothing. He told me that's what happens. You talk about it, you sort of invite it. It was around then that he told me about the local hoodoo. He then laid down some pretty simple principles that have come to make a lot of sense to me. Try them out. Your mileage may vary. He said that our reality, and the reality populated by what we call ghosts, is separated by a veil, like two people on opposite sides of a veil. Sometimes we can hear each other. Sometimes we can make out each other's forms. Sometimes what we do can have an effect on each other. And like a veil, sometimes it tears. Sometimes it's thicker in some areas than others. He said that the thickness of the veil depended on 3 factors, listed in descending importance: human population, time of year, and then time of day. The veil is thickest where there is a higher concentration of people. Human life sustains the veil. The veil also grows thicker and thinner depending on the time of year. It is thickest on Walpurgisnacht, and from that night forward, it gradually grows thinner and thinner, reaching its thinnest point on Halloween. From Halloween, it gradually grows thicker again until it reaches its greatest point of thickness. Finally, the veil's thickness shows the least variance depending on the time of day. It's thickest at 3 p.m. and thinnest at 3 a.m. Thus, you are most likely to encounter or experience something paranormal at 3 a.m. on Halloween night in a rural area, and least likely to experience something paranormal at 3 p.m. on Walpurgisnacht in an urban area. But now, we skip to the following year, when things took a really weird turn. I was meditating in my apartment one night, and I saw a creature that I can only describe as a cat with shimmering green fur. I saw it materialize for only an instant, but I instantly recalled seeing it before, although I couldn't remember where. I remembered its eyes were larger than a cat's, and they glowed yellow. I say it resembled a cat, but it really only resembled a cat in size and the way it moved. If it had ears, they were slicked back all the time. It moved on all fours, silently materializing every once in a while before fading out again. I still can't tell you where I'd seen these creatures before. It was like recalling an experience that I had in a forgotten dream, or maybe a different life. Most disturbingly, I recalled that there was more than one of these creatures, a lot more than one, and I also somehow knew that they were associated with another presence, that if you saw these things, this other thing was there, and you were already screwed. That experience really weirded me out, and still does. By then I was getting ready to finish my 3rd year and graduate. Things really came to a head a month or so later after graduation, and when I was beginning to study for the bar exam. I was having a very particularly bad day of bar review. Even when you're studying for the bar, it's sheer hell. I studied for 12 hours a day, almost every day, for an entire summer. I stepped out onto the porch to send a few text messages. The phone signal is shit in the mountains. The only time I could take a call or send a text was when I stepped outside. I noticed that it looked like it might be about to storm. I always liked it when it stormed in the mountains. The weather out there seemed more extreme than what I was used to, and storms were no exception. I hung around outside and waited for the show. All the clouds rolled in, and as they were doing so, I noticed that some of the darker ones were coalescing into one spot in a circular area in the sky in front of me. I moved to the other side of the complex to take some garbage out, and I noticed that the spot was following my movements. No matter where I moved, it stayed in front of me, off in the distance. I moved back to my porch, and I heard a long, loud, Gregorian chant sound echo off the mountains behind the complex. Then, the weirdest thing happened. The wind died down, and it got completely calm. The sky was still overcast, but everything appeared clearer than I'd ever seen it, and clearer than I've ever seen it since. It was like the difference between a standard and an HD TV, but it was real life. It was some sort of completely weird high definition, like high definition. And then, it stormed its ass off. I stayed outside until I couldn't bear the wind anymore, and it seemed like it was getting dangerous. I went inside, and the dark spot was still there. When the storm subsided, I went back outside, and it was gone. I moved a few weeks later. It's been years, and I've experienced nothing paranormal since. So those encounters were pretty terrifying, mysterious, mystifying, all kinds of different words I could use. But if there was one in particular that kind of stuck out to you, let me know which one it was down in the comments. Of course, if you have one of your own and you'd like to send it in, I have an email in the description below. And if you would like to support me just a little bit further, there's a PayPal and a Patreon, and memberships and super thanks. And with all of that, I hope you enjoyed the videos this week. I hope you'll continue to join me next week. And if you haven't already, be sure to like and subscribe. And I hope you have a good week. I hope you have a good weekend. And happy Canada Day, happy 4th of July, Independence Day. And yeah, I'll catch you in the next one, and I hope to see you there. Thank you for pulling up a stump, and thank you for watching.